They always say the signs are there, if you know where to look. I didn't. Or maybe I did, and I looked away. He called me intense once. Not in anger, not even in jest, just casually, like a fact. I remember the moment too clearly. We were sitting in that little cafe with the uneven chairs and mismatched mugs. I had been talking about something I was passionate about. A book, I think. He smiled softly, stirred his coffee, and said, "You just feel everything so deeply. It's kind of a lot." I laughed it off at the time. Back then, I thought depth was a good thing. That passion meant love. That caring too much just meant you were all in. Turns out not everyone wants to be loved like that. The first real crack wasn't loud. It didn't shatter. It whispered. A late text that didn't quite match the story he told. A smile that lingered too long on someone else's Instagram post. A scent that wasn't mine on his jacket, even though I told myself it could have been cologne from a friend or a department store or... You get good at lying to yourself when you love someone who lies to you. But lies have fingerprints. They leave smudges on his stories, his patterns, his eyes when they look at you just a second too long, as if searching for the version of you who still believes him. So I started listening, not accusing, not confronting, just listening. I watched how his phone tilted ever so slightly when he texted, how he laughed when he thought I wasn't watching, how he kissed me differently, mechanically, politely, like a habit he didn't know how to break yet. And then, one day, I found it. Her name, her face, her words, all in the cloud backup he forgot he gave me access to. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, reading every message like it was a slow, unfolding confession. Not from him, but from myself. From the version of me that finally admitted he was never really mine. And in that quiet, I felt something shift. Not grief, not rage, clarity. I wouldn't destroy him, but I would make sure she saw everything he tried to hide. There was something strangely quiet about betrayal. Not the kind where things explode, where plates are smashed and voices echo down hallways. No, this was different. Softer, colder. Like finding a note in a drawer that simply says, "You were never enough." I read the messages again. Not because I needed more proof, there was plenty, but because I needed to feel it. I needed it to sink in. His words to her weren't poetry. They were ordinary, careless, the kind of affection you give when you think no one's watching. "You get me," he wrote. "You make me feel calm. I can just be myself with you." Funny. That's what he used to say to me, word for word. I could almost hear him saying it, his voice low, soothing, honest. He was always so good at honest. I scrolled further. Photos, jokes, plans. Inside jokes I didn't know existed. Whole days he said he was working late, but had been with her. Picnic blankets, sunsets, coffee cups with both their names. It's surreal how someone can lead two lives, how they can kiss you goodnight and write "I miss you" to someone else in the same breath. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because now I had something more powerful than anger. I had the truth, and I knew how to wait. He came home that night like nothing had changed. Same soft kiss on the cheek. Same question about my day. Same casual undressing, scrolling his phone as he lay on the couch, pretending to be tired. I stood in the kitchen longer than I needed to, just watching him from the doorway. He had no idea that everything had already shifted. The moment you know someone is lying, and they don't know you know, is the moment you hold all the power. And I wasn't going to waste it. He started making small mistakes. Little things, really. Misremembered stories, mismatched alibis, forgetting that he told me he was at a client dinner when he'd actually said drinks with James just the night before. His lies were starting to fray at the edges, and I didn't fix them for him anymore. Instead, I smiled. A lot. That's the thing about pretending. It's only dangerous when you're bad at it. But I wasn't. I'd learned from the best. From him. So, I played along. I kissed him when he got home, asked about his day, laughed at the appropriate moments. I let him believe I was still asleep when he left early in the morning, still clueless when he turned his phone face down at dinner. I even started texting him sweet little nothings during the day, the way she probably did. He didn't notice the change, or maybe he did, but he didn't want to believe it, and that made him careless. I'd already found her social profiles. She was everything I wasn't, or more accurately, everything I didn't bother to be anymore. She was loud in her happiness, posting sunsets and lattes and mirror selfies captioned with blessed and grateful, a dreamer, a romantic, a fool. He told her he'd never felt more alive. I wondered if she would still feel the same once she learned how much of her life had been borrowed. How many of her memories were built on stolen hours and secondhand affection? Because I planned to tell her. Eventually. But not yet. Not before I finished building the story. Because if I was going to end this, really end it, it couldn't just be about pain. It had to be about precision. So I began collecting pieces. I took screenshots. I saved receipts. I tracked locations and times and overlays. I created a folder labeled Restoration. Not because I was fixing anything, but because that's what would come next. After the storm. After the break. He had no idea. He thought I was healing, that I was still that soft girl who forgave too easily, who smiled too much, who never raised her voice. But the truth was, I wasn't healing. I was evolving. There's a quiet power in knowing exactly who someone is and exactly who they think you are. That space between perception and reality, that's where the real damage happens. I stopped waiting for him to mess up. Instead, I started planning the moment I would let it all unravel. Not in flames, not in screaming, but with silence, with timing, with a smile. One day, I would simply hand him everything. Every message, every lie, every time-stamped moment he thought he got away with. And I wouldn't say a word, because I didn't need to. When betrayal is your foundation, silence becomes your sharpest weapon. And I was done being quiet for his comfort. I saw her in my dress. Not a copy, not something similar. My dress, the one I wore on our anniversary 2 years ago, the one he said made me look like a dream. Cream silk, backless, delicate stitching along the waist. I'd asked where it had gone when it vanished from my closet. He said I must have lost it in the move. I didn't say anything. And now, here she was, twirling in it on a video I wasn't supposed to see, smiling like the world belonged to her. He filmed her, his voice behind the camera. He called her darling. He told her she was perfect. I watched it once, then again. And then I pressed record on my own camera. Not of myself, not yet, but of everything else. The messages, the timestamps, the videos, his voice, his lies, the girl in the dress that used to be mine. There's something sacred about reclaiming what was stolen. Not just things, but time, identity, truth. I stopped feeling angry. Anger fades. Strategy doesn't. He kept living like nothing was wrong. He made weekend plans, told jokes over dinner, tried to kiss me in the mornings. I let him. I let him think he was safe. But I was already gone. I started to dress differently. Not for him, for me. I stopped dimming myself to keep him calm. I wore red lipstick again. I met my friends without telling him where I was going. I laughed more, louder. Not to hurt him, but to remind myself I still could. And he noticed. He asked if I was okay. I smiled. Never better. There's a moment when you realize the person in front of you isn't who you thought. And then comes the second moment, the one no one warns you about. When you realize you aren't who you used to be either. I was changing. And for once, It had nothing to do with him. The plan wasn't finished yet, but the edges were sharpening. I had everything I needed. And soon, I'd have my moment. I didn't want to ruin him. I wanted him to watch as everything fell apart. Quietly, beautifully, the way silk slips from skin. I wrote it 100 times. Not with rage, not in desperation, just clarity. It was a simple message, 2 screenshots, a timestamp, a link, and one line. Thought you'd want to know who your boyfriend really is. I never hit send. Not because I changed my mind, but because timing is everything. See, people think revenge is about screaming, about slamming doors or dramatic exits. But I've learned it's about precision, about watching the moment ripen until it's soft enough to crush in your palm. He still didn't know I knew. He thought I was distracted, that I was healing, that I was weak. But I was just silent. While he took her on weekend trips and lied about deadlines, I was building my own deadline, my own exit, my own reveal, quietly, efficiently, like someone rearranging furniture in the dark, preparing for the moment the lights come on. And when they do, I want him to look around and realize there's nothing left standing. I made copies of everything. The hidden bank transfers, the second phone he thought I didn't find, the messages to other women. Not just one affair. 3, maybe more. It didn't even hurt anymore. It was almost clinical. And the most ironic part? I don't think he ever truly loved any of us. Not me. Not her. Not the others. He loved the control. That's what I'm taking back. So I wait. Because there's an anniversary coming. The one he forgot last year. The one he'll pretend to remember this time. He'll book the restaurant. He'll order the wine. He'll wear that same smug smile. And I'll walk in wearing that dress. My dress. Not hers. Mine. And when dessert comes, I'll slide my phone across the table. I won't say a word. He'll see the message. Not sent to her, but to all of them. And in that moment, I won't need to scream. Because silence, paired with truth, is the loudest thing in the world.